The Orion capsule has just launched atop the SLS, a very powerful rocket. But another super rocket, SpaceX's Starship, is test launching soon. So it begs the question: how do these behemoth rockets compare? Let's do a deep dive. So NASA has been very busy in the past few months, busily assembling all the pieces to return us to the moon by 2024, 2025, or possibly later via the Artemis missions. And to assist in this endeavor, they have at their disposal arguably the two most powerful rockets ever made. But how do they compare? Let's start with the surface characteristics. First, height. The Starship rocket stands at 394 feet or about 120 meters, while the SLS stands at 322 feet or 98 meters approximately. This puts both rockets in the same class as the three-stage Saturn V rockets that were used to launch astronauts to the moon back in the late 60s, early 70s. Next, the weight. An important determinant of overall thrust and carrying capacity. The weight of Starship, fully fueled, will be about 11 million pounds, approximately 5 million kilograms, while the SLS weighs approximately 5.5 million pounds or 2.5 million kilograms. This noticeable difference in size is mainly thought to be due to the fact that the Starship rocket simply has more material and its upper stage is made of stainless steel. Next, we start getting down to the real heart of the matter, and talk about the thrust capacity. With its full complement of 33 engines, SpaceX says that their rocket can achieve 70 meganewton of thrust capacity, while the SLS, at this first version, maxes out at 39.1 meganewtons. Just for a reference, the new F-35 Raptor jets currently used by many militaries around the world can only produce 0.19 meganewtons of thrust.
Incredible!
Next, we're going to focus on fuel types for a minute, and we'll start with solid fuel. And this is important for analysis because solid fuel is generally easier to handle, easier to store, and oftentimes cheaper to use than liquid fuel. And as far as Starship goes, it has no solid fuel whatsoever. Meanwhile, the SLS uses polybutadiene acrylonitrile in its two boosters, the two white rockets on either side of its main stage. EAC of these solid rocket boosters is composed of about 8 sections, and they operate in the first 2 minutes of flight in order to help the rocket escape Earth's gravitational pull. Now, let's look at liquid fuel. In general, solid has a major drawback: it cannot be throttled. It cannot be turned off once started. Once solid fuel rockets start burning, they burn until all the rocket fuel is used up. So we use liquid fuel mostly for the ability to control the amount of thrust required or even shut the rocket down if necessary. Starship uses liquid oxygen and methane as the only fuel source, while the SLS uses liquid oxygen and hydrogen in the core stage of its rocket. And keep this in mind: while using liquid fuel generally makes your rocket easier to throttle and even turn off, liquid fuel is extremely volatile. It has to be maintained at extremely cold temperatures and must be transported via airtight fireproof piping. In fact, the liquid hydrogen used on the SLS has been the indirect reason for Artemis I's first 2 launch delays in September 2022. Liquid hydrogen has to be kept at negative 423 degrees Fahrenheit. And the liquid methane used by SpaceX has to be kept at negative 259 degrees Fahrenheit. The next stat that we have to cover is the max payload. This is the maximum weight that each rocket is capable of carrying to low Earth orbit. Once Starship is ready, SpaceX estimates that it should be able to carry 100 to 150 tons to low Earth orbit. Meanwhile, the max payload able to be carried by the SLS is approximately 95 tons. And lastly, probably the most dramatic statistic. The price per launch, as estimated by SpaceX, would be $2 million. Now, this is based on a claim made by Musk in 2019. Other, more realistic estimates show that Starship launches may cost between $20 million to $100 million each, depending on a variety of factors. But even these price tags are far lower current SLS launch, which cost around $4.1 billion. Keep in mind that the SLS is the first generation of rockets made for this specific purpose. Now, along with price, let's talk about the one big factor that sets apart Starship and SLS. Yes, I mean reusability. Once SpaceX successfully completes its flight tests with the Starship, both the rocket's Super Heavy booster first stage and its Starship second stage will be fully reusable. Here is a brief synopsis of how Starship launches will commence. Starship will launch its full array of 33 Raptor engines. The first and second stage then separate in mid-air for the Starship to continue into low Earth orbit or even outer space. Upon Starship's return to land, the spacecraft will essentially stall itself until its forward velocity is essentially zero. At this point, Starship will start to fall belly down towards the Earth using its stainless steel hull as the heat shield. In order to stabilize itself as it approaches land, Starship will use the wings and fins on its outer surface, much like a skydiver will hold out their hands slow and steady their descent. As it gets closer to touchdown, Starship's Raptor engines will fire, causing the spacecraft back into a vertical position. From here, a reaction control system throttles and gimbals the engines so that the craft can safely land in the same vertical position. And once again, none of this is to invalidate the SLS launch system. It is based on proven technology that can reliably deliver astronauts to the moon and possibly other bodies. And as of the time that this video is being made, SpaceX is waiting for a launch license to actually test Starship in orbit. While it looks like we'll have two incredible options for planetary travel in the coming decades, we feel confident that they will greatly advance both space tourism and outer space research and development. Whatever the future holds, it's sure to be incredible. By the way, if you want to learn more about space tourism and space research facilities being planned in low Earth orbit, click here.
Thanks for watching another episode of Brain on Fire. If you like our content, please feel free to like and subscribe. Additionally, signing up for our newsletter is always a good decision if you want to stay up to date on the latest science, tech and space tech news. In fact, if you sign up right now, you will receive a link where you can watch the DART spacecraft impact per NASA broadcast. Until next time, keep star watching.